Okay, we're back, and with a high-tech innovation this time, I've split my audio recording into two channels, which means that I can play the game with audio on and it won't bleed into the mic and fuck everything up, and if the levels are wrong, I can adjust it later, so we aren't going to have to stress over that, and it means I can actually listen to this game as I'm playing it for the first time. I'm giving it something approaching a fair go, we can say, and I've already given it my full attention in something I was doing before this. This is the second piece of Halo 4 media I am looking at, and I considered making an episode 0 of this just to talk about the last thing, but it's related to everything that will be coming up, so what we're going to do is we're going to just play the whole game as it is, and I might just do my typical Anthony slow walk around in rooms whenever anything reminds me of the last thing. If you know your Halo 4 production lore, you already know what I'm talking about. If not, don't worry about it, we'll get there very shortly. I think this game starts and ends with a cutscene classified as a level so they can pad it out. 8 levels long, probably not that long. We'll see how long this takes. I've actually never played Halo 4 before, so this is my first time looking at this, might be for you as well. We'll see if we like this. I'm giving it a chance. And we are on. Time to compare and contrast Halo 1, one of my favorite games. Now next night, we're on to 4. Catherine Halsey interrogated. Great, I love it. Names, talking. That's Halo. Ooh. Wow, this is prestigious. It looks like a J.J. Abrams movie.
Tell me about the children.
This game was ahead of its time. There's a woman who looks like Frances McDormand.
Dr. Halsey.
Damn, there were children being made to do things other than go to school.
You already know everything.
Catherine Halsey, she's basically Joseph Kony, isn't she?
You kidnapped them.
This is 2012 and I'm very smart.
Children's minds are more easily accepting of indoctrination. Their bodies more adaptable to augmentation.
Jesus, calm down, J.K. Rowling.
Was the ultimate soldier. And because of our success, when the Covenant invaded, we were ready.
Okay.
Dr. Halsey, you're bending history for your own favor, and you know it. You developed the Spartans to crush human rebellion, not to fight the Covenant.
Ooh, whoa.
When one human world after another fell, when my Spartans were all that stood between humanity and extinction, nobody was concerned about why they were originally built.
Wow, that's morally grey. You don't care where your Nikes come from. You're like that too. 2012, I'm very smart.
My work saved the human race.
Sorry, I'm already in a bad mood. It's 2012. This was a bad time for me.
Lack of basic humanity helped.
These people are so
What
up
are
their
you
own
after?
asses, aren't they?
The others before you were naval intelligence, but you're something else.
Records show Spartans routinely exhibited mildly sociopathic tendencies, difficulty with socialization, and
The
verbalization.
records
It's
show
called pathos of
efficient
distance,
behavior
libtard.
operating in hazardous situations. I supplied the tools
Look,
to
you didn't hear that.
maintain that efficiency.
Do you believe the Master Chief succeeded because he was, at his core, broken?
What does John have to do with this?
Ooh, is he hit an emotional weak
You want
spot?
to replace him?
The Master Chief is dead.
His file reads missing in action.
Yeah, we can get into this in a moment.
Catherine.
This is all rather important.
Spartans never die.
Thematically, I mean. The plot-wise, I'm
Mistake.
primed to not give a shit about
Seeing
this.
Spartans as military hardware. My Spartans are humanity's next step. Our destiny as a species.
If anyone writing this believed
Do not
that, that'd be an
underestimate
interesting
them.
line, but that's just generic
Most of
villain
all,
babble in their mind.
Do not underestimate him.
Sorry, this is dumb. You have the subtitles. I'm willing to speak over it because it's dumb. The whole, thematic point of Halo is not that they're the future, it's that they're the past. It's rediscovery. Everyone here is a fucking imbecile. But what I do know about this whole plot is that they really turf the idea of rediscovery because Frank O'Connor is a fucking imbecile. 4 years after the plot of Halo 3, yeah, whatever. Forward unto dawn. That's a phrase I just saw recently. Do you know why? We'll get into that, don't worry. Yes, there it is. Ship in space. The texturing isn't as nice as on the Autumn. I like it's kind of like grayish finish rather than like... Never mind. We'll get into the textures of metal and all that stuff I love later. If you don't know, Halo 3 ends with the Master Chief floating off into space with his robot Diana friend. It's a fine ending. Halo 3 is a bit of a clusterfuck. Maybe we can look at that one day. And there's redesigned Cortana. I absolutely hate her. Look at her face and compare it to the first game, how she's gone from like this sleek, kind of elfin, almost androgynous, like evil anime girl to this like dumpy, like short stack, generically cute faced, tits and ass and gap toothed, like girl. She's like this palm-bearer, idealized girlfriend thing now. I just fucking hate this. She reminds me of the fucking Puerto Rican goblin from Deadlock. That's how badly they did this. It's just idiotic. It's not even really, like, crassly sexual. It feels more like they just didn't understand what the fuck they're doing. Like, they're just changing shit for the sake of it, and they don't have a coherent ideal they're working towards anymore. Like, she's meant to be more humanized, is the key idea here. Like they were just saying in that opening cutscene, they don't really understand the characterizations which were present in the early games, and especially, you know, in the minds of some of the creative teams more than others, especially Eric Nyland had a very elaborately worked out Cortana and Sheev characterization which fit perfectly with how little they spoke.
We're still adrift on the Dawn.
We're adrift on the Dawn.
Hang on. Bringing your systems online now.
Okay, well, I get to play a video game at least, so that might make me less angry.
You've been busy.
Activating the ship's
Oh no, Cortana, what were you doing? She's going robot senile. She programmed me in Obama HUD. Especially, like, late Obama. That's really what I need to talk about in relation to this game and everything about it, how the sensibilities are becoming late Obama. And, oh god, she looks disgusting, doesn't she? Look at that retarded, like, smug chipmunk face she's got, and she appears as a face on my screen. That's just idiotic.
Best bet to figure out who's boarding us is the observation deck, 4 floors up.
Shut up, you're not Cortana.
Wouldn't bet on it.
Yay, physics. Look how far we've come since Halo CE. Progress. This gun has a kind of very heavy feedback, which isn't terrible, but I imagine that the things I'll be shooting it at and the way it all plays out on the whole just won't feel that good. And yeah, I instinctively wanted to hit the back button just looking down this hallway of the ship, but yeah, this isn't the Fern make of Halo CE, this is 343 firmly in the driver's seat, so for this game I'm afraid that the Nightmare Vision goggles are firmly bolted onto our face. We cannot remove them. The whole game looks this tasteless and bad. Just, for a start, look at the gun we're holding. There was like that little tab on the left side in this game's Halo 1 incarnation. It was always there, but now it looks like twice as long and like this flimsy fucking thing. They really just went to the trouble of redesigning every gun in some way that was like, you know, they were already perfectly realized forms from like an understood and coherent thematic direction which informed the visuals. Like everything means something was very much why I love Halo. It was like one of the most perfectly realized Western games where every part of it is drawing back to a few central ideas and makes sense circling those. Halo 4 is what really happens when like it's no longer a bit of drift, a bit of like creative clash. It's just like people who don't share that vision, don't get that vision, or actively hate it in charge, and something just utterly different emerges. I was reading this game's Wikipedia page, as I said, and Yeah, creative director Frank O'Connor, the guy who kind of got in through human relations and just like fucked up the plot of Halo 3. That's its whole own story. There are videos about that that are pretty good if you care to look for them. But yeah, what was I saying? There's this dumb fucking line in the like development section of this thing's Wikipedia page where they say like, oh, we were hiring guys who didn't know it was Halo, and like a lot of them were saying like, oh, we hate Halo because of reason X, and O'Connor, fuckhead that he is, says what they really mean is we hate Halo because it's not Y. So in his idiotic mind, he thinks like, okay, so you get people in who hate the thing and they just change it to be what they would like it to be, and you know, now it's just improved because more perspective is always better. And apparently in his mind, like, there's no idea of like realizing to a personal point. It's video games, this like impersonal thing that exists outside of us all, and they can just be abstractly improved towards some kind of like perfect outcome forever by just like having more perspective applied to it forever or something. Maybe to some extent that's what he actually believed. Maybe he was actually just like a saboteur who resented the old Bungie guys. I don't fucking know, but the result is this thing we're looking at in front of us. And yeah, another interesting production anecdote before we get rolling is just that they created a kind of what they in the industry call a vertical slice, which was basically like a level in a finished form, which is like, hey, this is what the whole game might look like, and they show it to testers and say, do you like it? And they said that it was something they tried to make faithfully as much like Bungie Halo as they could. Like, even if they didn't get it, this was them trying to do that. And apparently all of the internal, like, testers at Microsoft 343, whatever, they actually really liked it. And then they scrapped that and thought, yeah, they did like this thing, but it's not what we wanted, because remember, we're the people who think Halo sucks because it's not X, Y, and Z, so we're going to improve it. So instead of something that looks like Halo CE faithfully rendered by people who maybe don't get it, but they can at least superficially get it enough to create like a Chinese clone of it or whatever we're after, we get this thing made by like extremely arrogant, supremely confident Obama-era Americans improving this great work of 2002 or whenever. Well, really, they were working on Halo kind of, some of these people, like as far back as Reach, which was only a couple of years before this, but still, it's not great. Anyway, the thing that I watched as well that I wanted to talk about was Halo Forward Unto Dawn, which was a web series. Yes, video games had tie-in web series in 2012, and it was... how do I describe it? Halo Forward Unto Dawn is sort of like watching every J.J. Abrams movie at once. It's got this, like, weird, demented hero's journey, like, completely stock premise and setup and, like, driving plot. The central figure is a guy named Lasky, who I think is actually in this game. We'll bitch about him when he shows up. But anyway, where we're going is... sorry, I thought of doing a separate video just to talk about it, but I thought, no, I get in the zone if I can walk around a room. I don't know why. We're doing a walking tour of Halo 4, and it's led by me, so it'll be a bloody slow one. Anyway, I just wanted to check what the number on our pod was. We were 16, not 17. Good job, Cortana. You missed the thematically relevant number. Oh well. Anyway, I watched that, and I just thought, wow, like... I knew it would be Obama in some way, but the specific phrasing of, like, J.J. Abrams' sensibilities is what came to me while watching that movie, so I don't think it was a waste of time. And who is J.J. Abrams? You know, he's the American Jew who made stuff like Lost, and I think he's really, like... you can pinpoint a lot of what's going wrong in culture by talking about J.J. Abrams, because... how exactly do we put this? There's a lot of, like, elements of dramatic form in the Halo Forward Unto Dawn movie, web series, whatever you want to call it, which feel vestigial, like conversations you've seen in other movies, dynamics between characters, which feel like they're just there because J.J. Abrams knows he's making a movie and he thinks like, oh well, I gotta like have beats with my characters, so I've gotta like, you know, make them go. There's gotta be a guy who disagrees with the protagonist and calls him an asshole. There's gotta be like, the protagonist has to doubt himself and believe in this at first, and then he changes, and it's very much like, even what's happening within Halo is more broadly happening within just like the entire like dramatic form of storytelling, not even like getting into elements of cinema or video games specifically, just literally on every level. Halo Forward Unto Dawn, even though it's a superficially watchable form because it's just ripping off like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie really hard. Really, if you look this thing up, you will see it just looks exactly like a J.J. Abrams movie, which is almost impressive that they did that on a budget, but... Anyway, yes, J.J. Abrams is very much like a guy just making stuff, like, out of a playbook he doesn't appreciate or understand. He doesn't know, like, why movies did this in the first place. He has never made a movie which had a point or represented anything he believes in. He just kind of, like... He is aware that certain things have succeeded in the past and just... He's basically a very successful cargo culter, and in my mind, like, 2012 is just, like... the high point of existence for these people. Like, things could just consistently get shitter, and for a while, like, nobody would call this out. Like, culture was just lost. People didn't even fucking know better. Like, the real thing was so far behind us that, you know, people didn't have, like, intelligent comparisons to make, and nothing new and that was good was really identified in the public consciousness. Anime had not taken over the internet as it has now yet. People were just, like, bombarded into submission by this just, like, completely pointless, ugly fucking garbage. It's just, like, impersonating real movies about real feelings that were made in decades past, and I've seen interesting discussions about various art forms and media lately that had the same trajectory. Like, I've seen a few people say something I sadly relate to all too well, which is that, like, music around this time, like, a lot of people have said that, like, they just genuinely just didn't listen to music, didn't care about it, maybe at most some stuff from video games, because they really just got the impression, like, okay, this is just, like, a pointless, meaningless, artless, tasteless thing for just the most, like, crude, animal-brained, normal, like, in the worst sense, trash people. So just, like, I guess music has nothing to offer me. That's just where everything fell to, in the sense of, like, okay, so the human inspiration that, like, created organic interest in this thing, just where it all was meant to grow from, what you would get and feel in it is gone, and also just, frankly, like, the craftsmanship is also just decades into decline of just, like, regression to lowest common denominator, becoming, like, you know, gutless and just not even, like, slickly entertaining, just completely pointless, vapid shit, basically, is the state of 2012. But paired with that, it's just... So yes, what happened to... How I would characterize a J.J. Abrams movie is, on one hand, what's going on in 2012, and more specifically with the movie that leads up to this. But then thematically, I kind of got into it with a few of my pointy comments during our prologue cutscene. It's just the kind of, like, moral complacency and idiotic, just smug regression again, just people out of touch with their own feelings and what it even fucking means to be human. Yes, these people can't produce or understand art or culture, but yes, this is just the fucking collapse of civilization happening around this game. This is what it represents in my mind and why I never even played it. I had basically given up on the human race around the time of this game's original release. That's where I was at in life. Anyway, where was I going? Yes, so this game, it's just... Yes, that's where I was going. Everything becomes vestigial and cargo cult, and thematically it's cargo cult, as you saw, like, basically every central idea of which, you know, Halo was spawned originally is betrayed just in that one opening cutscene. It's actually worse than I expected it to be. No, I had not watched it until right now. And yes, and that ties into what I'm always saying about the fate of video games, both within series and more broadly. They just forget where they came from and become like idiots impersonating a stupid, mistaken idea of what they thought was going on all along. And so Halo 4, I think, will be an interesting doubled journey of just, like, idiots forgetting what anything means and trying to impersonate it and failing. So do you see how, on a game level, FPS in general and Halo 4 just become this kind of, like, ugly imitation that misses the point of what was interesting first time around because they're just different kinds of people who don't get it? And thematically, you know, as a story and a whole work just spawned from, as I'm saying, like, it's wrong to, like, ghetto eyes or segregates story, because the whole thing grows out of what people think they're making, the ideas they think they want you to feel, the sensations and beliefs that are at the heart of the work, which are meant to be realized through its construction. If the foundational ideas, what you want to do, are wrong, then the whole work will be wrong, and so it feeds into itself. Like, they don't understand what they're making thematically, and they think that, like, you can divide this mechanically and thematically, and then, like, their ideas on each front, it's two false genealogies, which shouldn't even be two, they should be one, which they have split and gotten each one wrong in isolation. This game, I think, is just a pile of disasters. But then basically, I've seen one piece of bad supplementary multimedia, whatever you want to call it, the tie-in movie is the simplest way to put it, and I've seen an opening cutscene, and I've walked around this room, and I'm in a bad mood. I've psyched myself up for a bad time. But then that's kind of my prediction for how the rest of this game is going to go out. And I thought that I was going to do this whole thing like one video for one level, but this being a kind of prologue where I just walk around this room and basically explain what I think based on that movie and what I think the rest of the game will be like, I think that might actually be a pretty good episode 1, and this will give me a chance to check my sound settings and such, and yeah, I guess that I'll go and check on that and upload this and play the rest of the level and see how we're going. So yeah, that's episode 1, basically me catching you up on what else I've been looking at tonight and giving you my pessimistic prediction for how the rest of this game will go, but maybe I can surprise myself, or at least have a bit of fun, or be surprised by something. We'll see, but for the very minute we'll call it here. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this series.